In an era where offensive innovation dictates headlines and highlight reels, Jessie Bates III remains a powerful counterbalance. A cerebral, athletic, and emotionally steady safety, redefining the scope of his position. Since arriving in Atlanta, Bates has not merely filled a role on the Falcons' defense. He has become the voice, the vision, and the velocity behind its resurgence. His 2024 campaign may not have replicated his gaudy 90.6 Pro Football Focus (PFF) grade from the year prior, but the drop-off was minor in statistics and non-existent in impact. Ranked as the third-best safety in the NFL by PFF, Bates' blend of athleticism, intelligence, and leadership makes him one of the most indispensable players on any roster in football. The most important defensive players in football today are no longer just the edge rushers or the ball-hawking corners. They're the safeties who can do it all and make sure everyone else does their job too. Bates exemplifies that modern-day archetype. Defensive coordinator Ulbrich doesn't simply view Bates as a coverage piece. He views him as an on-field coordinator. From pre-snap alignments to last-second audibles, Bates orchestrates the secondary like a veteran conductor, ensuring each moving piece is where it needs to be. Whether it's motion adjustments or post-snap rotations, Bates handles the back end with the fluency of a coach. This is a player who lives in the film room, who dissects route trees and quarterback tendencies like a student of the game, and whose commitment to detail allows others to play faster and more confidently. It's no accident that younger defenders on the Falcons routinely reference Bates when asked about leadership and preparation. In an NFL increasingly populated with hybrid tight ends and shiftier slot receivers, having a safety who can patrol the deep third and cover in man-to-man is a luxury. Bates doesn't just provide that luxury, he weaponizes it. His 2024 PFF coverage grade of 81.48 among safeties isn't merely a number. It's a reflection of how seamlessly he adapts to different threats on a snap-by-snap basis. Whether it's matching up with an athletic tight end like Darren Waller in a seam, sticking with a jitterbug slot like Tank Dell, or covering ground as a deep safety in cover 3, Bates maintains a level of anticipation and positioning that disrupts timing and forces quarterbacks into unfavorable decisions. His 10 interceptions over 2 seasons in Atlanta and 24 total across his career highlight a player who turns film study into production with an uncanny frequency. And it's not just interceptions, it's when they happen. Bates has a flair for momentum-changing plays. He doesn't just corral errant throws. He seizes moments. What makes Bates particularly lethal is how he allows Atlanta's defensive staff to scheme. His presence lets Ulbrich design more exotic coverages and pre-snap disguises because Bates can recover or adapt on the fly. Unlike traditional centerfield safeties of old, Bates is just as effective near the line of scrimmage as he is dropping into deep zones. His ability to fill gaps in the run game, cover in man, and rotate responsibilities post-snap makes him a disguised piece of the chessboard. He's a flexible blade, capable of playing box safety one series, shadowing a slot receiver on the next, and floating deep in a Tampa 2 look after that. Few defenders in the league offer that kind of modular utility without sacrificing execution. Beyond his on-field exploits, Bates has transformed the cultural fabric of Atlanta's defense. When you talk to Falcons players, it becomes immediately clear Bates is the tone setter. His approach to midweek prep, his consistency in meetings, and his refusal to let details slide has become a model younger players aspire to emulate. And it's that reliability, week in, week out, that quietly builds the spine of any top-tier defense. He's not the loudest player on the field. He doesn't dance after every stop or mug for the cameras after a big hit. But in a league where flash often overshadows function, Bates continues to choose substance. He's always in the right spot. He rarely misses a tackle, and he never gets baited out of position by eye candy or misdirection. While the Falcons didn't field a top 5 defense in 2024, they consistently relied on Bates in high-leverage situations. His overall grade may have slightly dipped from the previous season, but that had more to do with defensive personnel changes and inconsistent pass rush than any regression in performance. If anything, Bates became more important. With Atlanta's young corners developing and injuries hitting the linebacker unit midseason, the team leaned heavily on Bates' coverage stability and communicative presence. He was the common denominator in multiple defensive packages, and the reason Atlanta didn't completely collapse in shootout games. His highlights weren't just interceptions. There were drive-killing pass breakups, perfectly timed blitzes, and late-game coverage adjustments that turned would-be touchdowns into red zone field goal. Being ranked third by Pro Football Focus among all safeties places Bates in elite company. Players like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Antoine Winfield Jr., who also provide do-it-all value. But Bates distinguishes himself through his cerebral game. He's not just fast, he's a thinker. He's not just strong, he's deliberate. When coaches talk about building a defense from the back forward, this is what they mean. Bates' adaptability, leadership, and football IQ make him a template for how teams will scout and draft safeties in the coming years. The days of one-dimensional enforcers are gone. Bates is the prototype. Smart, multi-dimensional, and team-oriented. The NFL is full of physically gifted players. What separates the greats from the merely good is often intangible. Trustworthiness, poise, and emotional control. Jessie Bates III embodies these traits. In high-stress moments, he becomes calmer. When the Falcons' defense looks to settle down or reset, it's Bates doing the talking. He doesn't freelance unless the situation absolutely demands it. He doesn't chase stats at the expense of structure. And most importantly, he plays for the team. He elevates others. That's why Falcons coaches trust him with more responsibility. That's why teammates follow him. And that's why analysts and film junkies alike consistently spotlight his play as both technically clean and deeply influential. As Atlanta looks toward the 2025 season, the franchise is poised to make a leap. Offensively, they've added more firepower. Defensively, they've begun to shape the front seven into a more consistent unit. But the soul of the secondary, and perhaps the entire team, remains Bates. His ability to adjust to new teammates, digest complex playbooks, and execute under pressure gives Atlanta a strategic edge. He's not just a plug-and-play safety. He's a multiplier. He makes others better. He gives the coaching staff breathing room. And he brings a professionalism that anchors a locker room culture. With the Falcons eyeing playoff contention and hoping to claim the NFC South, Bates will be leaned on once more, not just to make plays, but to guide, teach, and lead. Jessie Bates III may not be the most talked about name in national media. He may not grab headlines like a Myles Garrett sack or a Sauce Gardner pick six, but when the tape rolls, when coaches build game plans, and when quarterbacks scout tendencies, Bates is the name that comes up again and again. He is the quintessential modern safety, a chess piece, a communicator, a technician, and a leader. Atlanta is lucky to have him. And the league, whether it fully acknowledges it or not, is watching a master craftsman at work, week in and week out. Bates isn't just patrolling the field. He's redefining it.